Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Facebook Live. You are here on Techopia's Facebook page, and if you don't know this already, each and every single Monday at around 12:15, we have the privilege of engaging with the tech community right here in Ottawa. But as you already know, our city is doing so many vibrant things, especially when it comes to the tech industry. So what we're doing here is usually showcasing what innovative new technologies are taking place. We're also talking about amazing partnerships. We're also showcasing companies, executives, CEOs to help you as a business be more informed of what's happening within our city, because we have so many amazing companies that's doing great things both locally and on a global perspective. And just tying into that theme, we have a couple of guests here today to talk a little bit about one thing that we know is on the tip of everybody's tongues, and certainly the future and showing what is to come. It is 5G itself. So with me today, I have the President and CEO of CENGN. Thank you, Ritch, for joining us today. And also Rob, Vice President of Strategy for Mobile at Nokia. Thank you so much for stopping by today. Let's start things off firstly. CENGN, we know about CENGN, we've heard about CENGN, we know there is so much that you do within the tech community and also so much that you do for business within our city and beyond. Maybe you can share with us a little bit, Rich. Firstly, what is CENGN? What do you specialize in? What is the goal? What is the mandate for CENGN? And maybe clear that up a little bit for those out there that don't really understand what it is you play a part in.
My pleasure. So thanks very much. CENGN stands for the Center of Excellence in Next Generation Networks. We're a not-for-profit consortium. We're based up in Canada. It basically is a industry-led membership with organizations such as Nokia, Cisco, TELUS, and others who have come together in a very, technical way to try and put Canada back on the map in terms of the ICT and technology leadership. So in terms of what are we mainly doing, we have created an open cloud environment using hardware, software, and services from our member companies. And the reason why that's important is because it's a facility that small, medium companies, such as those that are around us here at Invest Ottawa, can use essentially for free and help demonstrate their capability and their services and their products. And so we also bring in students. So we're very active. We bring in at least 10 to 15 interns per semester, and we train them in the new technologies, and ideally they decide to live here when they graduate and work for either CENGN or member companies or start up their own business. And the third thing that we do is training. We're involved in next generation networks. This is a very complex area, and we want to make sure that even industry and government, quite frankly, are all trained. We are funded in part by the federal government through the NCE CESAR program, and with the help of members such as Nokia.
Thank you, Rich. Wonderful. So many aspects and so many facets of the company itself. Now, we are here to talk a little bit about 5G. So I'm going to pose this question to both of you, and I'll start with you, Rob. Firstly, let's start with what excites you about the possibilities and, of course, what 5G can provide and next generation networks. So I'll hear a little bit from you and then from Rich.
Sure. So, 5G is an evolution of the wireless networks we have today. It's an end, but I think what's different and what's going to be very unique is that it's going to be both an evolution and a bit of revolution, in that it's going to be a transformation of the end-to-end architecture of the network. So if you take, for example, 3G to 4G, right? If you think back 10 years ago with 4G, what were people looking for? They were looking for that, I'll call it a PC-like experience on their phone or on their mobile devices, and the capacity of a 4G network enabled that. With 5G, it's going to be very different. It's going to be, it's not only about capacity, yes, it's about delivering high speed, to your mobile device, but it's also about latency. It's about low latency. It's about being able to, enable use cases that today we can't. So, for example, we talk a lot about autonomous vehicles, autonomous driving. The network requirements to be able to have a car operate autonomously, it isn't just about the access or the radio network, it goes all the way through. And so there's really a transformation that's going to happen through the whole network. So.
Fantastic.
So all of those things, and my view is that 5G is going to play a very interesting role in the broadband connectivity, because finally, when you get into speeds of 10 gigabit, that actually gets very interesting, because let's face it, in Canada, if you live in the city of Ottawa or, downtown Toronto, your internet is probably fantastic. When you, go out to where I live, the internet is not very good. And that is not great, because I think a lot of the new economy is going to be driven on next generation internet, and I think 5G has a very important role to play. So low latency for all those very interesting applications, but the 10 gigabit bandwidth is also going to be very interesting, and I would like to use that as an alternative to a wired connection for internet for the future.
Now, I guess I should ask specifically for you, Rob, for Nokia. I mean, why has 5G, I mean, you clearly said, like, yes, it is definitely going to change latency. We need it for autonomous vehicles. But why do you believe this aspect, 5G itself, is such a priority for Nokia?
I mean, so Nokia, this is an evolution of Nokia's business today. This is the sort of logical evolution. We provide, wireless networks today, obviously around the world, globally, both access and core, and this is the evolution of the business we're in today. So it's obviously a logical place for an infrastructure vendor, for a network vendor like Nokia to play. I think, these use cases, the thing that's fascinating about 5G are these use cases, and it's interesting not only for the end consumer or for the operators, but also for the infrastructure vendors. So, I'd mentioned autonomous driving. There's knock-on cases there about industry, right? Enabling, the low latency, the high capacity, as Ritch mentioned, being able to have, enable an Industry 4.0 type of environment. You've got things like, the fixed wireless access or the high-speed broadband access, where you're going to really be able to deploy what I would call, ultra high capacity or, very high capacity links in a space of time that's much less than it is today. So today a connection that might be serviced by a fiber connection tomorrow could be wireless and reach areas that you can't. So, obviously for Nokia as an infrastructure vendor, this is really to your question, an evolution of the business we play in today.
And maybe I'll just speak a little bit towards, we just briefly touched on it moments ago, the partnership that you have with CENGN and, the partnerships that's created within that partnership. Why is it so valuable for Nokia to be a part of CENGN or working with CENGN to facilitate these evolutions?
Sure. And so, Rich described the ecosystem really is what I like to think of it as an ecosystem that CENGN's enabling, right? So it's an open access ecosystem. You've got university partnerships there. You've got corporate partnerships, companies that day to day otherwise compete in the marketplace are able to contribute assets and contribute to CENGN. Create an end-to-end environment that enables small to medium enterprise. We're doing a lot of work with some of the small to medium enterprises that are members of CENGN as well. So I think it's really the ecosystem that enables is a tremendous value to Nokia.
Rich, and then maybe for yourself, maybe you can give us a little bit of insight of how these discussions, collaborations, innovations have changed maybe over the years now that our city is known for more so now maybe than, it was always a few years ago, then it went down a little bit. Now we're stepping back up again. There's a rejuvenation of the tech industry and or just the potential of business moving forward in our city. Maybe you can speak a little bit towards how those discussions have changed, what is good about these discussions, the partnerships that you're pulling in, the resources that you're having, the collaborations that you may be seeing now more than ever, and how does that speak maybe towards what you are trying to achieve as a company and beyond?
So it's kind of like the, when you're teaching your child to first walk, it's like the crawl, walk, and run. We've been around for almost 3 years, and we spent the first 3 years building our membership, putting all the rules in place for and the process in place to scale the SME commercializations and getting the internship programs to scale and so on. The key thing that we want to do in the future is to scale that up. We won some money from the Ontario government in the form of a grant, $63 million that was announced back on Ontario government budget day. And what we'll be doing is expanding actually to facilities. Invest Ottawa is going to be one of our key hub locations, along with Communitech in Waterloo and Mars in Toronto, and 15 other regional innovation centers to expand what we're doing today in Canada out to these other additional 18 locations. And while we're doing that, we're using technology and support, of course, people. It's not just about technology, it's about people from companies such as Nokia, our membership and our partners. And ideally, I would like to do this across the country. And the main reason is because if you think about Canada's economy, a lot of it has been, natural resources and so on. But imagine if we applied some technology to that natural resource, and now it becomes a lot more valuable. So instead of selling something at 10 cents on the dollar, exporting it and buying it back at $1.20, what if we actually, did that technology here in the innovation here and then sold it globally? So that's kind of what we're trying to do. We started off in Canada. We are going to expand across the province. Ideally, we're going to expand across the country. And let's face it, any company that's here, I bet you if you went and talked to this gentleman over here and asked him, what is your strategy? The market in Canada is a little bit too small, so it needs to be a global strategy right from the onset for all these companies. And we want to help these small companies go global.
And that's so great to hear. I mean, that's really, I think you can see with, companies that's doing so well here that as, there's a variety of, we were just talking about the Branham 300 the other day and about the amazing group of companies that's doing so much and growing so much. So it's wonderful to see that you're facilitating that global thinking and pulling the partners together. Because once again, it's just getting the right people together to go in a common direction, so to speak. Now, for yourself as well, Rob, maybe you can share with me, I mean, just as Nokia, once again, seeing the evolution within Ottawa, how we have grown as a city as well, and what's kind of the next steps for Nokia? And I mean, we talk about 5G, and maybe I want to pose that to both of you. The potential of 5G for companies, how they could leverage that, how they should capitalize on the fact that 5G is coming, and how can we best commercialize that as well? I mean, maybe you can speak to that a little bit, how you can see companies, or how you would recommend or see how companies can best leverage and capitalize on that.
I mean, as I alluded to earlier, 5G is going to be an end-to-end architectural change in the network, and so that's going to open, it's going to open a variety of opportunities for tech companies to participate in areas that maybe have been historically closed. Either reasons of technology or what have you. Telecom networks and the infrastructure networks of the past have been very vendor specific or very particular to a particular vendor, or in some cases particular operator. So. Part of the promise of 5G is more openness, is more ability to access, and that's everything from programming interfaces and all the way through to actual interfaces into the network. So I think there's real opportunity for smaller companies to participate in sort of the 5G networks that they didn't have today, or that they haven't had historically. The networks are also going to be much more ubiquitous, right? So you think of an environment like this where you could have an in-building network, or you think of a factory where, or to use Ritch's example, mining is another great example where companies like Nokia can provide the infrastructure and the communications infrastructure, and I can get you your millisecond latency, but the specific application for how do you change that and make it particular to a given industry, that's where we would have to partner with other companies and other subject matter experts to do that. So I think there's a real opportunity. I don't know if you want to add.
Sure. I see two opportunities for 5G. One is the fact that the underlying infrastructure, be it next generation internet, next generation cloud, 5G, it's all the same. It's all a software-defined infrastructure that basically we've been involved in since day one. So that is the future. The good news is that it's not a separate network for all these new technologies. It's all the same. So there's an opportunity for Canadian companies to lead in the infrastructure side of the business. We also have a Pharos lab, which is one of 15 Linux Foundation labs, the only one in Canada, at CENGN, where a small company could actually look and see what companies such as AT&T and Telefonica and Orange in France and so on, China Mobile, what are they doing? What are they looking at in the future? So there's an opportunity to sell to them globally. The second opportunity would be what I call over the top, and that would be all these verticals that Rob was talking about that are just going to use 5G as that low latency, high bandwidth access and just not even understand what's happening on the infrastructure level. So there's going to be two aspects of it, and of course Internet of Things is one of those areas that is, a barrier to entry is very low, and small companies can actually innovate very quickly and actually utilize that infrastructure. We have a LoRa antenna at the top of CENGN. There's one going on here at Invest Ottawa in the next month or so, and that gives students and small companies an opportunity to demonstrate their sensors and their capabilities in all these verticals: oil and gas, mining, smart grid, and so on. So tremendous opportunities, actually.
So it sounds like it's just the doors that it can open and the possibilities are so amazing. And I guess one thing I want to ask, there's so much, you've gotten a lot of support as well, as you said, winning the grant as well. Maybe you can share with me, you're definitely stepping into that realm and you're really pushing and you're definitely a leader in that aspect. But what do you see either, whether it be a government support, whether it be private support, just to grow the awareness about empowering companies with regards to 5G and making this more moving faster on this? Is there anything that you think that can be better, or would you like to see grow, or you see more support from?
Well, the one thing that I would like to see is I do believe that this should be a national. So start off in Ottawa, now expanding across Ontario. But in order to make a significant impact for Canada, it does need to be a national environment. So we are, working with the federal government to see if that's possible. And because just imagine, an autonomous vehicle project where a small company in Vancouver wants to collaborate with a small company housed here at Invest Ottawa with QNX up in Canada and maybe University of Waterloo. Imagine if we could actually put that all together and at the same time do a mining project, at the same time do a smart grid project, and so on and so on. So we have that capability. So obviously we already have a ton of industry support, and obviously it's just a matter of making sure that we have the federal support to basically grow this across the country.
Thank you so much. Ritch, Rob, thank you very much for sharing some of the insight today with us. For those of you that's watched us here on Techopia, as you already know, each and every Monday we have the opportunity to sit down with some industry leaders, executives, and of course CEOs and presidents to talk a little bit more about what amazing things Ottawa companies are doing on both a local and a global perspective. We saw here today, of course, so much happening, and I mean, it's almost the excitement. These orange chairs kind of represent the excitement that goes. Hold on to your seats, because this is the start. And I think once again, what's so wonderful about talking about this is it is just a reminder, our city itself becoming a real player in this realm. And I think maybe Rob, you can kind of throw a last little bit of a comment in there. Just our city itself and how it compares to some of the other cities that's out there. I mean, Toronto is still out there, Waterloo is still out there. How do we as Ottawa kind of step up to that space? I mean, clearly getting involved more and more with CENGN is a clear indication that it's happening right here. I mean, how do you feel about our city growing and, the possibilities from here?
I mean, listen, I think there's a huge ecosystem here, not only of startup, but, there's a history here, there's an ecosystem here of technology skills, of technology capability that I think we can really leverage. So, it's, this is a great, Nokia does, a fair bit of work here in the IP and optics space in particular, and so that's going to play a crucial part in 5G networks going forward, again because of the end-to-end nature. But I think Ottawa in general is great. There's a great opportunity. There's a sort of unique ecosystem. There's a unique capability and competence we've got here that we can build on. So.
And I just had a discussion with someone the other day, and they said a very simple, basic aspect that makes our city so unique is that you know, we have so much expertise of individuals that's even part of the Nortel days that are here. So we have these really seasoned professionals in this realm, along with all the new innovative graduates that's coming out of our very, you know, well-established educational institutions. So it's a nice mix of getting those together, and if you can put them together and doing amazing things like that, the sky's the limit, so to speak. So thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining us today. Thank you for those of you that's watching us. Make sure that you stay tuned to techopia.ca or go onto Ottawa Business Journal's website, obj.ca, to get some more information. We hope to see you at our next Techopia Live. Have a great day. Bye.